What up, bitches? You ready for the chuckles? All right. That was a wonderful story. I'm only talking about trash from here on out, okay? None of the guys I'm about to talk about, they don't call their mothers, okay? And I fucked all of them. So, I've been married for 13 years, but before that, I was a whore. And I had terrible taste in men because I have abandonment issues. And I thought the ideal man was a man that left and then came back, no matter how many times it happened. I dated guys named Skid and Skunk and the occasional Scott, and sometimes Mud and Swiss. These were their street names, and I didn't care, all right? Some of them liked to shove condoms on their entire head just to show that they could do it, and I still had sex with them. Not my best moment. The longest relationship before I was with my husband that I was ever in, like consistent, like 1 year long, that was a feat for me. I was more like a 3-month girl. But a year-long relationship, we waited until, we were 6 months in before he finally put out. Now, I'm about 17 at this point. He is 16 and a half-ish, okay? And I'm like, give me the pud, you know? And we're going out of town, right, to go to his parents' cabin, and I was like, this is gonna be the time. This is the best time, an away trip. We just gotta get out of Phoenix, that's the problem. So we go on a walk, a solo walk. I do miss that as a teenager, the sort of like those little hidey corners you'd find yourself in, just like a little finger bang. Anyways, I knew I was with a bunch of perverts. All right, so we're walking in the woods, and he's like, I'm gonna go potty. He didn't say that, but he's like, I'm gonna go potty. And I was like, bet. And I was like, this is gonna be my chance. And I was really into gorilla nudity at the time, which was just, you leave and I come back and I'm nude. And it worked. It usually worked. And so I was like, all right, Scott, you're going to get the business tonight. He was named after the toilet paper. He admitted that. But he was also Catholic, which worked against me in this story. So he was repressed. What up? So he left to go to the bathroom, and while he's gone, I get completely nude. And there's a rock overlooking like this valley, like, hawk. And I decided to lay on it like Perseus with the fucking falcon, right? And I'm just like, this dude's gonna get it, right? He comes back and he goes, oh no, and he runs away. Did she think, maybe he's gay? Maybe he's not ready? No, she thought, I must do or try harder. Because that wasn't hard enough. So later that evening, we're in the bunk beds, and he's behind me. We're doing a little spoon action, right? And things are getting hot and heavy. There's some heavy petting. And he thinks we're having vaginal sex. We're having anal sex. And I am so riled up at this point that I do not care. He cries. And in an attempt to make him feel better, I was like, but it was anal, so it doesn't count? Didn't make him feel better. So ladies, that doesn't work, especially when it's their first time. He's happily married now. We did eventually have vaginal sex, penetrative vaginal sex together, and it was great. He was the best one, but the worst one I had, but I'm gonna single you out, okay? Just first name that comes to your head, worst boyfriend you've ever had. Jamal. There he is. All right, everyone's got one. You're thinking of him right now. Mine's Garrett, okay? Garrett is the fucking worst. So I met Garrett when I was 17. He was 19. Red flags. There's gonna be so many red flags on this journey, guys. Just buckle up. And at the moment where you're like, there's no way that she's gonna keep going with this guy, I do. So he was, does anyone, by a round of applause, does anyone know what a crust punk is? Okay, so it's imagine a punk, like a street punk with the studs and the mohawk and everything, but dirty. Like goth, but dirty. Okay, but he had a job. He worked for AT&T. Okay, so it was just like, you know, the best of both worlds. One evening, he decided that he's like, hey, tell your mom you're gonna go spend the night at a friend's house and you know, come hang out with me instead. I was like, totally, let's go do that. He doesn't tell me that what we're planning on doing is going to drive into the middle of the Arizona wilderness to shoot off his new shotgun at 9 o'clock at night. No red flags. None of them are going off, none of them. And my thought was like, I'm so glad he's willing to trust me with this. Like, so we end up going into a trailer park, and it's after hours, and so a lot of trailer parks will have those teeth, right, for your tires. Shredded his shit up. Turns out, you cannot go trailer to trailer with a shotgun asking people to use their phone. It turns out people living in the wilderness of Arizona in a trailer are not the most approachable people. So we're there until about 1 a.m. and the whole time I'm like, hey, call your roommate, you know, this girl that he lives with. And he's like, no, I won't call her. And I was like, okay, weird, but whatever. So his friend picks us up. We have lackluster sex on a twin-size mattress with no sheets. I later find out that's his girlfriend. Spoiler. That's his girlfriend. They've been together for 3 years. I'm just a teenager he picks up from high school. So, yep. We were supposed to go to prom, and I think that's when alarm bells started going off for him. He's like, I don't know how I feel about this. I picked out an ascot and everything. Anyways, he broke up with me by telling me that he had AIDS, and then didn't answer his phone. Which, bummer, he works for AT&T, so I knew he had access. That made senior year very uncomfortable, guys. I had to be like going up to guys and be like, hey, I don't have AIDS. Do you want to make out? You know, it was hard out here for the 6-month period, but I persevered. But did she stop? No! So, Garrett owned an HVAC company, and we're in Arizona, as I mentioned, and labor is fluid in Arizona. By that I mean there's a lot of illegal immigrants. And Garrett was like, I'm gonna go pick me up some from the Home Depot. And so he went there, and while he was there, there was a anti-immigration protest happening at the same time. They got really aggressive with his truck, and if you're a boy and you have a truck, you know what I mean. He got really upset that they were messing with his truck, and he ended up pulling a gun out and pointing it at an old woman. So he went to jail for battery. Yeah. Guess who was the dumbass still driving to jail? I had a pink scooter. I went on the fucking freeway to visit his dumbass, and I still wasn't the only person putting money on his books for honey buns. Okay? I know. I'm just scraping the bottom of the barrel. Anyways, he's on work furlough. I'm picking him up on my scooter in the morning and then dropping him off in the afternoon. I'm not having sex with this man. But he's, you know, around, and the thing is I realized pretty early on, I kind of have a breeding kink. You guys might realize that. I have a bit of a breeding kink, and it was enough for him to be like, oh my God, I want you to have my babies, that I was like, I'll stick around, I'll see where this goes, you know. So he breaks out of jail, and yeah, he breaks out of jail, and at the time I'm visiting in Seattle, and he calls me and he's like, hey, where are you? I was like, you're stupid, I'm in Seattle, right? And he goes, yeah, so am I. I was like, that's impossible, you're also in jail. And he's like, not anymore. I was like, oh, they let you out? And he goes, no. And my first thought wasn't like, oh my God, there's like a, you know, this guy fucking ran from jail. My first thought was like, oh my God, and you came all the way up here to see me? You're obsessed. Oh my God. So then, we sort of part ways for a little bit. I ended up moving to Salt Lake City, and that's when I started dating my husband. On an online forum. There was some gentlemen trying to convince me to show my tits online, and I was kind of leaning towards maybe showing my tits. And and he messaged me, mind you, I'm 21, he messaged me, he's 10 years older than me, he's like, you shouldn't show your tits, and I'm so naive that I thought that I was just like, he's not like other guys. Oh my God, I can't believe this. And so we started talking, and meanwhile, Garrett's living his life at HVAC or whatever. And, I'm starting to realize that I've met the love of my life, but the hoe, it runs deep, okay? And so about a year in, I was like, I'm sorry, but like, can we not anymore? And I felt really bad. He ended up like quitting his job and everything, and it was a really hard time for him, but he like ended up moving to Salt Lake City, obsessed. During this period, Garrett and I started talking again. Yeah, we started talking again. I was going on tour with a Christian ska band, and we... we were going to be finding ourselves in Las Vegas, Nevada. And so was Garrett. He was there for an HVAC conference, turns out. We met at Mandalay Bay. And I got to tell you guys, I'm going to get down here for a minute because there's no chair. Sex with the same person when you're 17 versus sex when you're 21, and you've had a lot of dicks between then, night and day. Night and day. When I was 17, best dick I ever had. This guy could just rub up against me, and it would get me going. I don't want to brag or anything, but I get off quick. And, but this time around, I was like, this is sad. And you had sex with me with no sheets once. So, eventually I have a coming to Jesus, and my husband's like, look, do you want to be with people that make you feel like you have to be somebody else for them? Or do you want to be with somebody that genuinely loves you, all facets of you, the beautiful, the ugly, just like takes you completely? And I was like, that sounds dope. I would love that. So I was like, hey, Garrett, we're not going to talk anymore. Flash forward a couple months, I'm pregnant with my first child. It's not Garrett's. Okay, calm down. Dodged a bullet there. But I did find out at the first appointment, to like check that it has a heartbeat and it's like, still alive or whatever. Found out that Garrett gave me chlamydia, so. Yeah, he's the fucking worst, guys. He lives in Boston now. He has a daughter. Oh. Anyway, I'm sure he's doing better, but I also hope he does. I'm gonna end on this, guys. Some of you might know this, but I had a code when I was out in these streets, was that I'm only gonna have sex with guys that are my boyfriend. That was a very loose term, okay? I was splitting hairs for a while, and I was just like, all right, we've been together. I met you yesterday. You're my boyfriend now. Guess who's getting their dick sucked? No. So I'm hanging out with this guy, and part of the allure is that he's 7'2", and I'm a tall girl, right? And I was like, I was like, finally somebody. I haven't had a piggyback ride since I was 8 years old, guys. I was starving for someone bigger than me. And so we're dating, and what they don't tell you about people that are ginormous is that they don't have regular beds. Like, you kind of had to be a little bit more creative with them. So we were doing a lot of outdoor sex, a lot of park sex, benches, tree stumps, cars, the roofs of. He couldn't fit in cars like a normal person, We smoked hookah for the first time, and I didn't know that hookah gets you kind of high. Like, I don't smoke cigarettes, and it's got the nicotine in it and the flavors, and, my body's feeling, like, really jelly-like, and he's like, hey, there's an alley over here. You want to try? You want to try that one? And I was like, yeah, sure. You carry me there. We'll do it. So we get to the alleyway. We find a spot clear of glass and dog shit. And he sits down. I hop up, and we get to work. And halfway in it, I'm peaking, all right? I'm chasing that orgasm. And I see a light come on, and the outline of a middle-aged man comes across us. I have to assume he was middle-aged. It was really lumpy, and he was wearing a baseball cap at night. Who does that? And he goes, the law is on their way. You don't know about this, but Arizonans, they kind of have a bit of a twang. Nobody talks about it, but they do. Anyways, he's like, they're on their way. And I pop up, and I go, I'm so sorry. And then I scamp. We literally went in different directions. And then he broke up with me the next day. I don't like to think it was related, because I didn't ask to be there, but I think he figured out it was more work than it was worth. My name's Kaya, and you guys have a wonderful night.